What's up, everybody? It's the Chill Scrub. Another day, another video, and as promised, I am going to be releasing a guide on frame data. This is going to be a real in-depth guide on frame data, from the basics all the way to the advanced, when to sidestep, how to sidestep, what to block, when to punish certain things, when to jab check, when to mid check, when to take a turn, when you're setting negative traps. All of these kind of things will be discussed in this guide. So for all my beginners, intermediate, and even advanced players, you can probably learn something from this guide. So without further ado, let's get started. So what I'm going to do first, before we even break into frame data and like learning strategies and workarounds and things of that nature, I'm going to tell you how frame data works. So frame data has 3 steps. I've mentioned this in my previous tutorial, but I'm just going to go over it now and hopefully in more detail where everybody understands it. So for every move, you have a startup. So startup frames is the amount of time that the move has to actually activate and register, right? So if I throw out a jab, it takes 10 frames for it to come out. It says attack startup on the right hand side. It says attack startup frames 10 frames. So it's 10 frames for it to come out, right? Now, the thing I don't like about Tekken 7 and even Tekken 8 is that they don't tell you what active frames are, which is the second stage of frame data that we all need to know, so we'll all be on the same page when we're doing this guide. Active frames refers to how long a move is open, and in this case, how long is it available to hit you, right? Or how, again, that's the word, it says how active is it. Now, let's take a move like Death Fist, right? Believe it or not, Death Fist has a lot of active frames. The problem is that Tekken 8 does not give you the information on what active frames actually are. So if there's ever a situation where you swear you moved out of the way of a move, but you still somehow got clipped, more than likely you got clipped by the active frames of that move. You probably did step at the right time because the move is still active, and this game has a lot of tracking with a lot of the moves. You end up getting hit by things you should get hit by. Now, going on to the third stage of frame data, the recovery stage. This is very important for all of my defensive players that want to know how to punish properly. This is something that you need to know. Now, a lot of players don't go into detail about recovery, but recovery is, and they don't show you this in the game, by the way, recovery is how long it takes for you to get back to the neutral position where you can actually afford to block again. So let's take a punishable move. I'll just say, i.e., let's say you do Death Fist, right? Right? Okay, so he does a Death Fist. This is just for recovery. Just talk about recovery, right? He does a Death Fist and it says minus 17, right? So he will not recover if I do a move that has 17 frames with perfect timing or anything less than that. So if he does, again, Death Fist, and I do a move, i.e. shoulder, which is 12-13 frame startup, you will notice he gets hit. He cannot recover, and this is what they call punishment. This is what that means. So going back over the basics, startup means the amount of times it takes for a move to come out. Active is how long this move stays active and is able to hit you. Recovery is how long it takes for the person to recover back to neutral where they can actually block again. Simple enough. Hope everybody understands this. So I'm gonna start off with the defensive thing because I realize there's a lot of players that don't really understand how to punish. They see a lot of players saying minus 10, minus 11, minus 13, minus 14, and they echo it out but not really understand what they're doing. So when something is -10, what they're simply saying is that it's jab punishable by most characters in the game, with the exceptions of characters like Paul, not Paul, but Jack, right? So jab, it says 10 frame startup. You do a move, let's say a hop kick, right? Right? You do a hop kick, and just do this. Do a hop kick, and I jab, right? He does not have enough time to recover. Now, of course, I can punish with something a little harder, but just for the sake of example, that's what they mean by 10 frame punish. Now, obviously, a hop kick in this case is -13, as it says on the left-hand side for Paul. It's a -13 frame punisher. So the optimal punish in this situation would be a shoulder, right? And depending on the situation and where you're at, you could probably get a wall splat and extend the combo, etc., etc. But that, we'll get to that at another time. Right now, we're just talking about frame data and getting into the nitty gritty, right? Defense. So most things in the game, when most pro players are saying -15 or higher, or in this case, launch punishable, by most characters in the game have a 14 or 15 frame launcher, right? So let's say Paul does something again like Death Fist. He does Death Fist, I can punish that. Now, depending on the spacing, it might be off, right? But that's another 15 frame punisher. Most characters in the game can launch punish at 15 frames. So when most pro players, if you ever hear that again and they say -15, for people who do not know, if you're an intermediate player, I do understand that you probably understand this, but so everybody's on the same page. I want to make sure everybody knows when they say -15 or higher, that means that you can launch. That means you get a full combo and there's literally nothing they can do about it because they're still in recovery frames. They cannot step, they cannot block. That's it. So when they talk about punishers, so if I ever do a guide again, or you watch a guide and you want to follow through and they say -10, -11, -12, they just mean punishment because the character cannot move and you're available to get a free hit, right? Now, that's out the way with basic punishers and things of that nature. Let's talk about frame advantage on offense. A lot of people have the misconception that just because I am plus on something, that means I can do whatever I want. And that is not the case. So let's take, for example, right, the most common string that people do, which is, right, you will see this forever in Tekken gameplay. It's some of the most simple and most fundamental things you can do in Tekken history. It's a simple jab, check, then a mid check follow to see if you're ducking, right? Now, most people will respect this if they see a person spamming this, but that's not the case. Now, for a lot of players, they get mad when they get hit out of this. I'm gonna explain why. So he's gonna do it. And why? Okay, so I want the people to pause the video right here, and based off of what I just told you earlier, I want you to tell me why he got hit, right? So if you pause the video, I want you to tell me why he got hit. But I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now why he got hit. If he only does the jab, it's gonna say +1. +1 jab, right? He's only +1. Now remember what we were saying earlier about jabs coming out at 10 frames. His down forward one, as you can see, is gonna show 14 frame startup, right? That's a 14 frame startup with a after a +1 move. So that means there is a gap. With that gap, there are several options that a defensive player can do, and for my offensive players, that they can do to remedy this situation and get out of this. So, number one, they could simply jab you back, right? That's why he got beat. He does not have enough frame advantage to stop him from attacking back. Makes sense? Okay, got it. Now, the other option the defense player will end up doing is stepping it. You want to know why? Because it takes about 5 frames, about 5 frames to sidestep, and that's at a frame perfect sidestep. You don't want to try to sidestep when you're like -3, -4. You could do it, but it's going to be extremely tight, and depending on what they do, you can probably get caught. But when it comes down to breaking down frame data and Tekken in the simplest form, when you see jab, down forward 1, it is good. It is good to do. But if you're getting checked and they're jab checking you out of it, or they're stepping you, this is why this is happening. Now, when it comes down to being minus, right? What a good player would do, right? This is called a minus trap for all my defensive player and offensive players, right? So what I'm going to have the computer do is I'm going to do down forward 1 and have him step. Right, jab, down forward 1 step. Oops, sorry. Right, okay, so check this out, right? You saw what happened right there, right? So he was -2 after the down forward 1, right? And when it comes down to the down forward 1, most good players tend to step to bait you to do another move. So you should be cautious of that. And if you're a better player, they're going to step block. You want to remedy that situation. But why was he able to step? It was his turn, right? It was my turn when I threw that jab. But because he's only -2, he can step, he can move, he can block because he has enough time to recover. Remember, recovery frames, back to neutral, and still have enough time to sidestep. That's why the frame data matters when you're trying to lab and you're trying to understand certain situations and how to remedy them out. A lot of players see negative and automatically assume that that's a bad thing. No. So in most practices, right, I'm going to go ahead and set them back to offense. In most practices, a -2, and take the punishment off for now. Just leave him at standing. -2 is actually really good because you have other options that you can do as an offensive player to try to trap them into doing something stupid, right? So let's say I have put the punishment on and I have him, I'll say after 1 hit, and have him do a down forward 1. Right, down forward 1, right? So what the common trap is, and you'll start seeing this in like intermediate ranks, like high blue, early gold, even Tekken God ranks, they will down forward 1, they will step, and then they'll down forward 2. They'll do something like that. Now, if you're fast enough, you'll get the whip punish. And things like that happen, right? So these are traps. That's what a person named like Fighting GM will call a negative trap. A lot of people, and here's the thing, you're not wrong for taking your turn in this situation, but this is where the fundamentals and the mind games of Tekken get very complicated. Because in one end, you want to take your turn because, again, you're +2, he's -2, you want to take your turn, throw a jab or whatever, but at the same time, you have to be cognizant of the fact that he can step you and move out of the way due to him being able to recover so fast and actually, you know, punish you back. So it's a counter, it's a hard counter actually. Now, what a lot of bad players tend to do, they'll use those same minus frames and they will try to duck. The reason why ducking is bad, as we always talk about it, mids eat you up. You don't want to get eat up by a hop kick or a down forward 1 or whatever have you. So good players tend to sidestep and block, but now you can understand why they are doing that. It's not just because they're just doing it for the sake of doing it. No, they're setting a trap for you. And it's just that simple, right? Now, as I said before, and I'll give you an example of by what I mean by good timing to sidestep. So there are certain moves in the game, right, that have that's like -4, right? For example, like let's say like this kick right here, -5. I can't move. I can move only because he did a down forward 1 that was 14 frames. If he was to do a jab in that same situation, I could not move. I will get hit every single time. So I'll change it and I'll show you what I mean. Oh, I meant to put a jab. Hold on, let me record that again. All right. So with the jab, because I'm -5, I can't move. Try to move, I get hit. Why is that? I'm -5, right? And remember, because of the recovery frames, he's +5. Going with a 10 frame jab, your sidestep would literally have to be frame perfect. And the reason why I don't suggest things like this is because you're playing online for most players. You're not playing offline. So it's going to be hard to even sidestep on a -3. This is for my defensive players out here, and this is how frames work. So the golden rule of thumb for my offensive players, going back to offense, right? You probably want to go for about -2. -2 gives you some space. It's tight, but you have space. Sidestepping the wrong way, by the way. You have space, right? And as long as you're sidestep blocking, you're keeping yourself safe as well. So you can keep your pressure. You can go, right? So that's what you, and then you start mixing in your homing moves. Like let's say, for example, with Paul, as I was doing earlier, I'm +1. If he wants to jab check me, right, which is a terrible idea, I can just jab him out of it, because no matter what he does, as long as it's a standing move, he's going to lose out that battle. Now there are certain characters, Cough Cough Yoshimitsu, that will beat you out, because Flash is like 8 or 9 frames. It's super fast. But in a normal Tekken sense, in a normal Tekken match, that's not something you really have to worry about. So 9 times out of 10, this would be extremely beneficial. Reason being, the only option he has out of this situation, or the only few options he has out of this situation, is number 1, he could probably power crush you, but by that time you'll recover fast enough to the point where you'll be able to block it. Or if it's a high power crush, it gives you extra frames and it slows it down to the point where you can see it. Let's say like Harong's backlash, for example, you'll be able to duck it. But the other option is he can duck. But if you know he's going to duck, you could probably just do a mid. But this is where the jab check comes in first. Now, there's no such thing as completely safe Tekken. There is safer Tekken, but there's no such thing as completely safe Tekken. You're always taking a risk no matter what. So let's say I have the computer do that exact same thing where he does quarter circle forward 4, quarter circle back 4, and then he does jab, right? Pretty safe, but he can get popped. Right? So he does that, and I duck, and then he gets punished. And you're looking at this like that's a real steep punish for a jab. Like that's really steep, and that's the risk you're taking. Now, to counter dickheads that do things like this, as far as using your frame data knowledge, is you already know the options he has. If he's an idiot and you test the jab and he presses, well, he gets hit, right? And as he gets hit on the jab, you're +8. I'll talk into that in a second, but I'm talking about like just basics, opening up your opponent. Now, you know that he is, you know that you're +1, he jabs, he gets hit, you're +8, you can start up your mix-ups from there. But if he's a dickhead and he tries to duck it, well, at that point, you can just do... Let me just go ahead and report this real quick. Right? So, just to check him, to keep him honest. So, oh my bad. I just did that again. I'll just do it real quick. Alright. To keep him honest, you would have to, because if he ducks, he's going to get popped. The problem is he can jab check you, so that's the 50-50. But he can also step it. You can step that down 4-1. But most players are not they're not smart enough to do that, or they don't know what's going on. Most people I'm gonna pause this real quick. Most people, when they see plus frames or they know a move is plus, they tend to freeze up and not understand what to do. And they just pause and you get to just get free mix-ups. Good players are gonna constantly try to press some kind of advantage. They know that there's ways out of it. So, but if he's just using basic defense, or you can just probably check him with the mid if he's trying to duck, and you can still say relatively safe, right? And with you hitting that down forward one, depending on your character. In Paul's case, he's +4. With that being said, with that knowledge down, that's up to you to understand what moves are plus, or the startup frames on your moves, right? Now, going back to the startup frames. Startup frames is where the magic happens when you start your frame traps and all kinds of traps in general to mix up your opponent, right? So let's say, just for the sake of argument, take punishment off, right? So he's just standing and I hit him with a down forward one, right? The best option would probably be jab, right? If I just want to keep it super fundamental, super basic, and with me doing these things, I just want to see how he's going to respond. With that jab, that is a pretty safe thing. He cannot mash, and you know in Tekken 8, they like to mash. They love to mash on everything. So if he doesn't have heat, or he's scared to power crush, but again, you have so many recovery frames that he's going to recover so fast, or you're going to recover so fast to the point where you can actually block. You'll be pretty much fine. That's pretty safe Tekken. Or you could jab, sidestep, see what he does, and continue your pressure from there. Right? This is what I mean by safe offense. Now, when it comes down to a lot of players that you're going to see it like green, red, yellow, blue, they're going ham. They're using these super big moves that are not necessarily I'll say optimal at the time, and there's no setup. And that's where a lot of good players, pro players, talk about setups, and they're setting you up for certain things, right? So let's take a move like down forward 2, right? You want to set up a launcher, right? Because everybody wants to launch, everybody wants to get their damage, right? Let's say let's have them block. This is basic, by the way. There's ways out of this, but this is just super basic, right? Super basic Tekken 1-on-1, right? You charge up you charge up forward 1 +2. It's +5. Remember, your down forward 2 is 15 frames, so it leaves a 0 frame gap, which is a pretty true frame trap. The only thing they can do to probably get out of that is either dig jab you, rage art. They can't heat smash because it's going to leave them in crouching. They can't heat engage you because it leaves them in crouching, so they can't do that. So the only thing they can really do are those few options. So the question you would ask yourself, what does he have rage? If the question is no, well, the down forward 2 is a go. He can't while standing for you because he doesn't have enough frames. It'll be a counter hit. For example, let's put this into practice, right? And you can use these examples that you're seeing in this video and try to practice the stuff yourself so you can see it firsthand. All right, so let's say, let's have it record. No, let's have it actually attack me. Punish, and let's have it at, let's say what we have, right? Well, he's not going to do anything, so I have to put it on defense, and I'll just record it for myself, have him do it to me, and I'll try to attack. Right? So that's our trap. Basic trap. Very, very basic, but it's just to show a point, right? If I try to while standing for this, I'm getting launched. I'm getting launched every time, so this is stopping me from mashing. I can't mash. The only thing I can probably do, and it'll trade, is dig jab. And I called it. It trades because the dig jab comes out at 10 frames. Your dig jab comes out at 10 frames. That move comes out at 15. I'm already +5, so that's a 10 frame uppercut, right? And you're covering multiple options because Paul's uppercut, it tracks, or down forward 2, it tracks to certain sides, so it tracks to left. If I believe I'm not mistaken, yeah, you can sidestep it right, but it tracks left. So With that being said, the whole point of offense and using this frame data is to limit the amount of options they can use against you on the defensive end. Now, if I were to have rage, so I want to show you when you think that people are mashing rage, sometimes they're not. They're banking on the fact that they know the frame data and they can get out of a certain trap. So let me put the rage on for me, and I'll show you what happens. And this is, I know it's gonna look stupid, but it's gonna work every single time if it's not frame perfect. Stupid, right? The reason is because the armor for Rage Arts is almost instant. It's almost instant. Now, I think what would check this to the point where I can't even activate the Rage would probably be a move like, let's have him do into a jab. Right? So, fort that, and let's try it again. I can't Rage Art. I'm mashing it. You can't see my input, so let me put my inputs on so I'll make sure y'all can see that. I'm gonna mash it so you can see. That is what you call a true frame trap. It's uninterruptible by any means. The only thing I can't even interrupt that with heat. So let me explain heat. Heat engagers in Rage Arts, they need at least, I think, 4 to 5 frames to actually start up, maybe 6. So if you know your string is very tight, like this string that we're showing right here, that is super tight, they have no wiggle room to do anything. Matter of fact, even trying to step would be hard. You can't really move. One, because it forces crouch. This is a mix-up. Well, it's not really a mix-up. This is a lockdown that requires you to just block. You really can't do much besides stay crouched. Oops, my bad. So with this knowledge, right? If they don't have rage, and they can't engage in heat, right? And here's the thing, this is where you're using your information and you're paying attention back and notice that if they panic and try to use heat, this is the thing that you will use to pop them right out of it. If they don't have rage and they not really are duckers like that and they cannot step this, that is optimal. That's the kind of frame traps you want to go for to stop them from just doing crazy shit 24/7. Good players know this and they avoid things like this. So let's say a move like, the problem with setups like this is most people are not gonna just sit there and let you charge that up. Notice how that move that I just did, the forward 1+2 all the way charged, is 29 frames. You have 10 years to move out the way and you will get launched. So this is where pro players are saying setup. So let's say you have somebody at the wall, right? And let's put me on the ground. Can I put myself on the ground? Right? See, that's where the setup lies. I try to get up, and you have to hold that. Let's try to restart again. Yep, every time. If I'm fast enough, I could probably jab out of that. But in most cases, as you just saw, I'm gonna get tagged. At the wall, this is where you kind of try to implement these things, right? You don't have to play, for all my beginner and intermediate players, you do not have to spam launchers 24/7. Launchers are meant in neutral for whiff punishing. Now, if you got a person's timing down, yeah, sure, it's cool to do every once in a while, but they're really meant for whiff punishment only. A lot of the times when you do launchers, let's go ahead and put them in block, right? Let's go ahead and put them in, restart settings. Let me go ahead and put myself back to standing. Right to settings, go to offense, and have them on block all. right? So with this being said, launchers like this that are minus 13, right? You're gonna get tagged. Or like in that case with the down forward 2, even though it's safe, and this is where we're gonna get to the frame data about giving up turns. So when somebody says your turn is over, they mean situations like this where you're a minus 8, right? I can attack. The only thing I can do is duck, right? So let's put it a situation where, go ahead and set that to punish, and he just does a jab. Right. If I try to attack, I'm gonna lose. I'm minus 8. He does a jab, I get beat out, he's plus 8, his turn continues. Now I'm in a situation where I have to guess. Is he gonna go for a homing move to stop me from stepping, like pause forward, forward 4? That is a heat engager, that's mid, really good. Is he gonna go for a down forward 2? What is he gonna go for? But I don't want to be in that situation, and hence why I was trying to tell people earlier, and I'm going to reiterate this, you want to be like -2, -3, where you can still have the option to try to sidestep or whatever have you. The only option I have out of this is probably, oh, not my bad. I can't power crush that. So the option I have is, my bad, is ducking. And that's where that stupid trap lies. It's a scrub trap. I don't want anybody to fall for this again if you can help it. This is a scrub trap. Ducks in Tekken have 0 frame startup. They start up damn near instantly. I say 1 to 0 frame startup. So, or probably just 1 frame startup. So with that being said, the classic scrub trap, do a move, duck, bait it, use it as a bait, and go from there. Because you're becoming a good player or you're learning, you understand that it is your turn, and you know, as we just discussed earlier, the jab is one of the most fundamental tools to stay plus, have all your options open, and expand on your offense and defense at the same time to see how they're going to maneuver. But people will try to blow that up by doing things like this, and this is where the mid check comes in. So just because he's -8 doesn't mean you need to do a jab. Matter of fact, you can do a down forward 2 and he'll still get popped. I'll put it on there as a punisher, right? So let's go to punishment settings, and I'm gonna do a down forward 2, right? Because it's 15 frames. If I do this, I'm going to get popped. I tried to jab it, can't jab. You wanna know why? Because he's optimizing his frame advantage. He understands that I am -8. There's not many options I can do besides duck. So if I do that scrub strat again, essentially if he was to do a hop kick, I'm getting launched. So he's keeping me honest. This is how Tekken shakes down. So I know a lot of people are very combo enthusiasts, but this stuff right here will take your game to the next level. You're probably way better than me. I suck at execution, but this is my realm. This is my place where I shine. Frame data and the nerdy stuff like this is what I do. So now the option that I have now, because he's trying to optimize the frame data and he's trying to keep me honest. Now I could actually power crush this, because I have enough frames, but as you just saw, because he recovered so fast, right? But when he hit me, the active frames are over, he went to the recovery phase, he was able to recover fast enough to be able to block me, where he's relatively safe. Now, if the computer, or let's say you're an actual player, you can react to this and duck it. You can react to it, because I just told you, ducks are frame 1 or 0 frame. They start up damn near instantly. So you can duck this situation and you don't have to worry about getting tagged. But we're getting into the nitty gritty now for all my beginner players or intermediate players, I hope you guys are still following along, and I hope you're soaking up this information and understanding how you can utilize frame data in a multitude of ways to curate situations that are beneficial for you in the long run, or understand when to just back off and not do anything, because sometimes the best option is doing absolutely nothing. Sometimes it's better not to even move. Like I was saying earlier in the situation, like a lot of people wonder why they get caught in a step. They said, I swear I sidestepped that. Sometimes you just don't have enough frames. And by you trying to sidestep, even if you tried to counter the block, remember everything has a startup, everything has an active, and everything has a recovery, even your sidesteps. So you end up getting caught. So be very careful and very mindful. If you're doing something that's like minus 5, don't pursue trying to step. Just go ahead and see that situation right there. I did down forward 4. I know it's -2. I'm going to step, and I stepped early, and I caught myself and made myself block, which kept me safe. Right. Now I know the frames. Now let's say I know this situation. I know he's going to down forward 2. Right. But because of the way the frames work, I'm -2. He did a power crush. He doesn't recover in time because the move is fast. I come back. I'm able to actually power crush. He cannot block. That's because he tried to check with the down forward 2. If he would have checked with a jab in that situation, because he was recovering so fast, he would have had enough time to block. Same thing with, my bad, I'm just trash. Let's see. Same situation. It's the exact same situation over and over and over again. Learning how to use the frame data effectively eliminates a lot of the guesswork. And if you're running against an idiot player, you can punish them very hard for using their flowcharts. So a lot of people wonder why they can't beat flowcharts. It's because they don't understand the frame data behind the flowcharts. Just like I was saying, this gimmick flowchart right here. If you know that he's going to do a down forward 2, and you know he's going to duck, he's hit you with it before, it's okay. We all get hit by some bullshit every once in a while. But when you understand the fact that, wait, that down forward 2 is -7 or -8, and he just did a duck, and then he did another launcher, which in my case, I did another while standing 2. That's not real. That's fake. If I want to play it safe, I could down forward 1 it. If I wanted to play it heavy, I could just hop kick it. If I wanted to be, use my movement, I could, because again, he's trying to duck and trying to cheese. It's so many options you can use every single time when they're trying to cheese you out with things that they don't know. Frame data is your friend. I encourage everybody to learn these things. So again, what I was talking about so far, and let's do a small rundown. The beginnings of frame data and how it works, positive traps and how to utilize your big Tekken moves like your launchers, your heavy plus frame moves, things of this nature, and how to set a person up on offense. Also using negative traps on offense to bait your opponent into trying to attack, but doing it smartly. Ducking too much is very predictable, so you want to set yourself at -2, -3, sometimes even -4, depending on how they respond, and actually set them up with a sidestep, or even sometimes a power crush if you know they're going to do it, a heat engager, whatever. We also went over that heat smashes and heat engagers in particular. Raw heat engage takes about 5 to 6 frames along with rage arches and power crest. So as long as you're +5 and the move you do is around 10 frames, there's nothing they can do. Or if you're +7 and you do a move that's like 12 frames, there's nothing they can do. That is completely true. They cannot sidestep. They cannot rage arch you. They cannot heat engage you. They cannot do none of these cheat mechanics, or they can't really cheese you out. You're effectively, as an offensive player, taking away so many options of them with these positive frame traps, and with these negative frame traps, you're baiting them. Now, with negative frame traps, again, I didn't mention this before, but sometimes it's just good to make them panic and sweat. So you're doing this, right? You're just doing down forward 1s. You're doing your jabs. You notice that they're launch heavy. you're dashing, and sometimes dash blocking is a great way to create pressure to make somebody do something stupid. Most movement in the game starts around 1 frame, 1 to 3 frames or whatever, which gives you ample amount of time to just cancel it, because you can cancel everything in an instant. So you can jab, block. You can dash block to bait. That's the bait. Sometimes they'll retaliate with a jab. Sometimes they'll retaliate with a down for a 1. Sometimes they'll retaliate with a step. But regardless of what they do, you're keeping yourself safe for the most part, because there's a risk with everything you do. Because just because you're dash blocking doesn't mean they cannot hit you low. They can. But it's just information. And in a fast-paced game, and the more you play somebody, the more you understand these things, and you adapt your gameplay accordingly. But with negative traps in general, I can still, in this case, dash and block, or I can step. I know I keep showing the same example over and over again, but it goes for a lot of things. So I don't want people to be caught off guard. So let's say I do, again, quarter circle back 4, one of Paul's best homing moves, counter hit launcher, but I want to catch him doing something stupid, right? +1, this move comes out at 15 frames, right? So if I do, I'm gonna get caught. But if I do, well, he can't do anything right there. So let's say, let's have him get hit, right? I'm gonna get caught. I'm only +4. But what can I do to make sure I don't get caught? Right? I can just crushed. But if I down 4-1, gets beat. 15 frames. I have +4. I did down 4-1, 10 frame down 4-1. Cannot check that. He cannot beat me. And a lot of players that have crushing launchers will do stuff like this, or crushing moves in general. They will do stuff like this to try to take their turn back. As a good offensive player, you're trying to keep them from taking their turn back by minimizing your risk and maximizing your reward. That is your goal as the offensive player. As a defensive player using frame data, your goal is to limit the options that the offensive player can do. And if they're not being honest, make sure you're checking them with your movement, knowing the frame data on certain moves, and checking them with mid checks, jab checks, and sometimes power crushes and heat engagers if they're not playing honest. That's the goal. But guys, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up, because I know it's getting like 40 minutes. If you want me to go more into detail about this kind of stuff, let me know. I really hope this guide was a big help to somebody. I know it's a little bit over the place, but I'll probably make some chapters to make it a little bit easier and more digestible for most people. I hope you subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Instagram. It's Anthony's Vices. __ Anthony Vices. Follow me on Twitter. It is the Chilled Scrub. And thank you so much for watching. I've been getting a lot of support lately. I appreciate it so much. I know my videos been controversial, but I do want to do this because I see a lot of people talk about frame data, and they don't really get into the nitty gritty of it. They kind of give like a very vague talk about it, but they don't really tell you what's going on. So hopefully throughout me bitching in my other rant videos, this actually gives somebody some actual help, some much needed help. If you need to go back to this video, and please do. If you have any questions, just ask me. I'm pretty much available all of tomorrow, and just comment. I'll reply to damn near every comment unless you're talking something stupid. But enough of me rambling. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a good one. Until next time, peace.